Okay, so we're going to open up for our last discussion on infrastructure. Yeah, so let's start with any of these questions. People can decide what they want to talk about first, or anything that came up that people want to start it off with that's not on here, infrastructure related. Monzi.
One more question for David, which is, I guess the most urgent in the solar system world for follow-up would probably be the fastest movers. So does the known solar system from Rubin include things with streaks, like things that have moved even in 30 seconds and have streaks, or does Rubin only give you point sources?
I can tell you that we definitely see streaked known objects, but maybe I'll see if Eric wants to say any more about that.
So are there any that you intend to follow up in real time?
I don't know that I have an answer to that. I mean, the objects, the known streaked objects, those are near-Earth objects. Those are the ones that are streaked. The known ones are not usually the interesting ones. It's the ones that are unknown that are more interesting. And those we don't see because we only see objects that have been sources that are identified with known objects. And so they're somewhere else in the alert stream ecosystem and we don't see them.
Hello, this is Bryce speaking. So I also have a question for David. So how is Snaps doing the identification of cometary activity? Is this a property derived from the Rubin alert, or is Snaps doing some kind of analysis of the alert to ascertain whether or not it is a comet-like object?
Yes. So there's a lot of useful metadata in the alert packet about PSF and stuff like that. And we also have my student Aaron, who I mentioned before, has built a CNN convolutional neural net that is trained on known active objects that looks for activity in the postage stamps that are coming in the alert stream.
More questions for David? Or not? Okay.
So for Roman, who are responsible to make the transient alert? I mean, is it Roman team at Science Center, or
you should turn around,
or we had some proposal. We heard the talks. There are groups like high latitude time domain survey. I mean, are they responsible for those alerts?
Jacob,
will you take that?
Ryan?
Rapid is producing the transient alerts for Roman. Yes, yeah. So the project infrastructure team, well.
So the first word in the workshop title is rapid, and that is literally Roman alerts promptly from image differencing. So we are a project infrastructure team funded by Roman to produce time domain alerts on anything that Roman observes twice. So any of the core community surveys, any of the geo programs, anything at all that Roman observes twice or more, we will subtract the images and send out public alert streams.
I think Dave Trilling's idea of kind of a focused science broker is a really good idea that the transient community has not taken up, but that maybe we should, like a nearby galaxy transient broker or something like that, just to be, what's that? Oh, do I have to use that word? This is what I don't understand. Or I don't know, pick your favorite thing. Something where we could aggregate data as a community for focused science cases, and be more like Dave Trilling, like we all want to be. I don't know. I think it's a good idea.
Monty said it's a great idea.
I'll use the wisdom of age and said that's how we envisaged things 20 years ago. And the problem is the community has not jumped up to the or stood up to the plate to build the things that they want to do for their specialization. Everyone wants to do everything.
Hold on, stop. Defend yourself.
Sorry, that's just not true. I mean, saying we're not building the things that we directly for what we want to do just isn't true. I don't know.
I mean, we haven't seen the proliferation of specialized brokers that we envisaged even 5 years ago.
It's
Because
because some of this was too complex for us to understand, but I think we're getting.
yeah,
there
no,
now.
I think market force will. We thought it would happen earlier, and it's taken a lot longer for this stuff to come up, and a lot of that may be market forces. But I think maybe
Do you
we
mean
will see-
funding? Is that what you mean?
No, just also having the data streams and having enough interest in the community or a big enough community for people to actually think this is what they need to do their science going forward. We've had alert streams for 20 years at scale in some cases, but we just haven't had people who are interested in doing things with them or building the necessary infrastructure or the infrastructure, getting enough out into the community to do this sort of thing.
Awesome. So let's start. Let's do it then.
Win.
Yeah,
I
I
think
know.
that's how,
So-
okay.
Win.
Okay, let's start here and then we'll go back to Ashish.
So I think it's important to understand that we are in a new era of science, and with these huge streams, the idea of the full stream brokers is that we deal with a huge quantities of data, try to filter them out, and that's why we create all these live streams and our services that people can stream to downstream brokers or more specialized tools for certain science cases. I think from the start, that was the idea of the broker environment, that we could do what we specialize best, each of us. So our job is to get the full stream as full stream brokers and help enable other science. But if we want to join data sets and do a specialized science, it's not necessarily, we can enable it, but it's not necessarily what we need to do for each science case all the time. So I'm all for downstream brokers and specialized science downstream brokers.
Yeah, I'm going to say something that I was hoping Anais would say, so I'll say it for her. So I think Fink and Antares both allow modules to be attached to their brokers. And so what David is doing is exactly that for something specific, like asteroids. And so the other Dave, Sand, you should be able to do the same with Antares or with Fink. So that is a good idea, but yes, more people should come forward and create those modules specifically for what they're interested in.
Please.
I just want to say that I think saying we've been doing this for 20 years is maybe misrepresenting what we've been doing. I feel like ZTF has been online for 10 years. And I think that the infrastructure, it took time to build up even the brokers that we have to serve the community, the infrastructure that we have. And we are now all grappling with dealing that. I think it's reached a level of maturity that we can start to interact with it. And that's what we're thinking about. And that's what we're all doing here. And I think that's what's happening with the development of SNAPS, with the development of Trove, with the development of Saguaro, and all of these other things that we've heard about. And so let's just not say, oh, this is old, no one did this, so we shouldn't do it. I think that like now is an excellent time to do it because these tools have reached a point where they are broadly usable by the community.
I'm not saying that we shouldn't do it. What I'm saying is that the schemes we're thinking about are exactly what we envisaged 20 years. I mean, Ruben, LSST was envisaged 20 years ago. It's taken us 20 years to get there. The idea is this exactly is what we've looked at. You can look at the Vero EventNet papers from 2005, 2006, and they show a distribution of main brokers and sub brokers underneath, which are doing specialization. The problem is, there are things in the community where it has taken longer to provide the data, to do the uptake, different technologies come in, different interests, things like that. So I'm fully supportive of where we are now. I'm just saying that, some of these ideas are not particularly new, that we have been conceiving of them for a long time. It's just materialization has taken time.
Great.
Let's go Griffin and then. And then I'd like to move away from what we've done in the past into now, but let's have more thoughts on this.
So let's say I want to become a nearby transient downstream broker. I have two questions. One is, how do I fund that in the long term? And two is, how do I get the label downstream broker? Like, am I already a downstream broker if I'm listening to the alert stream from Antares? Or like, what does that actually mean?
Eric?
Yeah, let me just address the downstream broker question. Yes, absolutely. Anybody attached to, there's 7 brokers who are receiving Rubin alerts specifically directly from Rubin. So anybody attaching onto that can consider themselves a downstream broker. And as everyone has said, that's a great idea, and we'd love to see a ton of that. Snaps and POI, Rubin specifically refers to them and mentions them as downstream brokers because they put in a proposal, and it was viewed as, we were encouraging of the science and their development. And it's really exciting to see David, your talk. So like, do you need an imprimatur from Rubin to be a downstream broker? No, you don't. That's the whole value of the public alerts. And so go forth, get your filtered stream, build exciting stuff. I can't tell you how to fund it.
This question of downstream brokers and how to use the brokers in general. A lot of the people I talk to still see, oh, there's a lot of data. I'm uncomfortable. Oh, now they're brokers. They're going to solve the problem. Now I don't need to think about lots of data. I can continue as I did before. And I think that's not a good way of using the data and actually viewing the brokers, because then you're ignoring the full data stream that are coming. But rather, when you design a science project, you should see what the broker do as part of the full science analysis that you're doing. And then that, when you develop that way, it might be very natural that you construct a downstream broker, because that's how you construct it. But too many people see that their science start with some pre-configured stream coming out of a broker that approaches something they can think of. And then they're already cutting away from lots, if not most, of the data. And I think that's something that's good. If we can slowly as a community come away from, and in some sense, that the brokers exist allows people to continue operating as before. They can implement the filter and get one object a day, and they're happy.
So I want to shift gears a little bit in the last 15 minutes to maybe address some more of these questions and discussion points, but I want to gear it more towards earlier career voices a little bit. So I know I started grad school with my first hot wiring session meeting like 10 years ago. It's 8 years ago. I'm not that old. And I saw hot wiring as kind of intimidating because I saw all these things about what was happening, and I had no idea where I'd fit in, and I still don't think I fit in, but at least it's like the community feels like much, I don't know, more tangible. But I'm wondering if maybe grad students, or I'm just looking at this last point, like incentivizing data sharing, changing psychology of the field. Like, in terms of this infrastructure ecosystem, can I get like postdocs, grad students, undergrads, anyone that feels like they want to speak on what they're looking forward to, where they feel like they fit in, where they don't fit in, if they feel comfortable saying it, what they want to see from people higher up or, lower down, wherever. I'd like to open it up to, yeah. Perfect. Thank you. Didn't have to pull too many teeth.
Yeah, I've been thinking about how to change the psychology with respect to incentivizing people to share things so they don't all observe that same spot and then miss, the counterpart. Can the tax require that if you're applying for something like a rapid follow-up kind of program, you must commit to make it public on a platform like was it the one that Andy was talking about? Someone in this session, I think it was Andy's. Yeah, can they require that? And also, there's a discussion of a license kind of thing for it. And that's a great idea. And
Associated
totally
with data,
doable.
yeah. I think that came up in Andy's talk. I don't know if he wants to speak on that, like how maybe that could work practically for assigning credit with related to data products.
Yeah, I think it's just pretty simple. You put in your message that you put over Hermes, you say, you know, here's a license. I mean, we could predefine all of these licenses. And then you just say, you know, whatever it is for, like, you can use this for investigative purposes, but not for publishing. And, or, you know, another one could be use this to train AI models or something, you know, whatever we want. And then it just has to be a community decision that we all support that kind of thing. But I would love it if we could go to a world where, like, all the data we get in the Global Supernova Project just gets streamed to everybody, so that, you know, all the supernovae we're following. But then, you know, if you want to write a paper, you got to work with us. But you know, it could help if you know that, especially in this Roman and Rubin era, that there's so many supernovae to follow, that some group is following this one. So if you could get more IR data or UV data or whatever, then we could all write a paper together. But that starts with just broadcasting that information, and we need to wait to incentivize that. But I'm always happy to hear ideas.
Right there in the middle. Maybe Jacob is closer. I don't know who's closer, but
So to that point, I'm wondering if it's possible. So, for example, in Hermes, when someone is publishing an information, oh, I got this spectrum, is it possible to add like a little, field which says this is the way you can use this data, and this is who you contact if you're writing a paper on it? And then it can be ingested by, for example, a Tom. And then the Tom, once the person is like writing a paper about this specific target, they can say, okay, I've got this data, this has been taken by these people, so I have to include them as co-authors, or maybe, their policy is a little bit less strict, so I only like have to cite the paper. Yeah, and also include that information for anything that is public, like, Atlas or something, like also have it, like if your Tom is ingesting data from public surveys, already also have like this information. Okay, this is what I'm supposed to do when I do this with my data. Sorry.
that's a great point.
Just so people are aware, pet peeve, I've seen a lot of results come out where they thank the broker, but they don't actually thank the data source.
Okay.
And so people
Maybe
can be
talk a
aware of
little bit
that.
about, like, how, yeah. Can you talk specific?
Well, people will talk about, they found this from alerts, which they got from, whichever broker, but they don't necessarily cite the actual data source. I'm thinking of ZTF because that's what I've worked on.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
I'm aware. So when this data goes downstream and mixes through various interfaces, sometimes the original citation is lost.
Okay, that's a good point for the community. Any other thoughts, comments on the ecosystem of infrastructure, downstream, upstream, middle stream? If not, well, we can go to lunch, but I think that people have other comments. I don't know. Okay, if not, let's thank all the speakers and everyone. Thank you.